It's your friend the Wren back again. Sometimes, out of nowhere, a thought comes to me. Oddly, from some unknown place. And I think to myself, this should be a video. If I was watching YouTube, maybe I would click on this video. So without any research or, getting into facts and dates and all of this, I will just pull from the ether. You clicked on this video because you're interested in the doors of perception. And obviously you're interested in hearing about the doors of perception from my perspective, or you wouldn't have clicked on this video. So what are these doors of perception? Where does this come from? And yes, I will be relating my pipe throughout the video. Because that's what you do in the pipe world. It was back in the 1700s, a William Blake wrote some of his prose. I believe it was in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, which is technically not really about heaven and hell. But William Blake, an artist, a poet, a druid. Yes, he was. A lot of scholars don't even know that because they're scholars. But nevertheless, William, or Mr. Blake, in his Marriage of Heaven and Hell, towards the very end of it, there was a quote. I can't remember what stanza it was a part of, but the quote that we're using about the doors of perception here is, "When the doors of perception have been cleansed, everything appears to man as it truly is, infinite. For he has closed himself off and sees through narrow chinks of his cavern." Think about that. When the doors of perception have been cleansed, everything appears to man as it truly is, infinite. It was many, many years later that author Aldous Huxley wrote his work called The Doors of Perception. He also wrote The Brave New World. Brave New World is a book that is definitely about our culture today. Some people even have it on their banned books list. But Huxley's work deals a lot with the study of hallucinogens and consciousness. And then many years later, a young man, UCLA Film School. Was he at UCLA? I think he was. Was really into poetry and hallucinogens. And he started a band called The Doors. So Jim Morrison, in his poetry and the band, was inspired by Huxley, who was inspired by Blake. So what are these doors of perception? Well, ask yourself, how are you perceiving this video? You're using your eyes, you're using your ears, but you're not really seeing me. You're seeing a video representation of me, of light and wavelengths coming through your phone. And it goes through your eyeballs, and it does this magic trick where it flips them upside down and, which is like right side up. But anyway, the same thing with sound. You're not really hearing sound. There's just, vibration and the way your ear perceives it, and then your understanding of language to make sense of it. What's that lyric to that song? You don't see with your eyes, you perceive with your mind. So when the doors of perception are cleansed, how do we cleanse these doors of perception? Cleansing means washing away, clearing off, getting rid of, eliminating programs that you're running, abandoning the ego mind, stillness, peace, going within. Yes, it can be done with hallucinogens. It can be done with meditation. It can be done with laser focused, single-minded attention. So, how do you cleanse your doors of perception? Do you do it through fasting? Do you do it through some sort of meditative process? Do you use things like 5-MeO or DMT or mushrooms? The funny thing about these things, and it is funny, that we do have these receptors in our brains from birth that are specialized receptors for these chemicals. It's not an accident. Saying that mushrooms that grow on the planet are an accident. That's funny. But the strange thing is, and to have some humor about this, how does somebody come back from an experience that actively participates in this joyful, wonderful experience to come back and to explain it to somebody that's never done it? It's like the only language we have is metaphor. The only language to describe the source, the universe, the creator, God, whatever you want to label, you want to call it, is metaphor. And we create allegories and symbols. But Blake's marriage of heaven and hell, where there is a lot of his work, has this very Christian, and do I dare say the word Judeo-Christian, because I don't like the term, but there is a blanket over it. He's speaking in the language of his time to an audience of his peers and to the community at large that were consuming and reading his material. So of course he's going to put it, as a poet does, in a language that people can discern, so they can draw their conclusions. That's what an artist and a poet does. That's what he did. So if you can get past this labeling that he does with a lot of his work to the deeper message of what he's actually talking about, it's very clear. When the doors of perception have been cleansed, everything that appears to man as it truly is, infinite. These narrow chinks of our caverns, it's our eyes. We've closed ourselves off using our eyes. Seeing is not believing. I mean, hell, even if, Jesus or Yeshua walked through your door right now and said, "Hey, man, can I use your bathroom? And yeah, can I have a beer?" It, you wouldn't know what to do because you would be, the Christians that are watching this would be all holier than thou with, worshiping and asking questions instead of just being like, "Hey, I got you. Come on in." And the same would go with if your ancestors walked in the door right now. Say people from the Iron Age, from your bloodline, walked into your door and looked around your house. And you didn't speak their language and they didn't speak yours. But they looked at you and you looked at them and there was some sort of knowing. And that's what happens when you have an experience. There's a knowing and you can't communicate that. It's a very personal, divine, special, sacred, whatever you want to call it. But there's something you gain from an experience that can't be communicated, especially with a wider audience. But when somebody has a similar experience to yours, they have a knowing, and it's a little bit easier to talk with them about your experience and their experience. And you watch how fast that you guys have an understanding, a knowing, an unspoken knowing. So let's look at Morrison's uh, famous, song "Break On Through." What's he talking about? Break on through. Break on through to the other side. Tell me how that's not influenced by Huxley and Blake. Break on through to the other side. He's talking about the doors of perception. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. People that say Morrison wasn't a poet, then I encourage you to read all the lyrics of everything he's ever written, dismissing the music. That's neither here nor there. The purpose of this video is to encourage you to have an experience. The purpose of this video is to inspire you in such a way that you can leave behind this questing, this seeking. If you have an experience, you gain some knowing. If you have an experience where there's an inner knowing, you watch how fast belief falls away. There's no need to believe when you know something. If I know that 1 + 1 is 2, undoubtedly, you cannot question that. Same goes for having a divine experience. And the knowing that comes from that are those doors of perception that have been cleansed. But I can't tell you how. That's up to you. Wishing you all the best. I'll chat with you soon. Stay fresh, cheese bags.